Today, this is my definition of a cult. It has several factors, including a charismatic leader. Number two, a place where there is almost perfect uniformity in terms of groupthink. Some cults live together, ours did not, but cults are often encouraged to spend a lot of time together doing related activities together. There's often, number four, an elitist or like a superior attitude, saying that we are the chosen church. Right. And finally, a wacky or a wild beliefs that often make you just clutch your pearls.
Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to Dope Interviews, brought to you by the mighty 19 Media Group. I'm your host, Warren Shaw, and in the virtual building today, I have somebody who's pretty damn amazing, to be very honest with you. Very, very decorated. She's an actress, a comedian who you've seen in shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, 911, Chicago PD. She's also an experienced voiceover actor as well, too, working with DreamWorks and Nickelodeon. But she's here today. She's here today to talk about her new show, a new podcast that she's launched called Black and Cultivated, and to talk a little bit more about her extensive experience in the world of cults. LaNisa Frederick. LaNisa, what's good, families? Welcome to Dope Interviews. Thank you for being here.
What's up? You brag on me so well. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I was like, oh, I do things.
Well, it's not bragging if it's true, right? And at the end of the day, you know, you've earned every last bit of that and then some. And so on Dope Interviews, you know, like a lot of shows, we like to start at the very beginning. And I do kind of want to start with the first question of just, you are in, you know, the entertainment acting space. What prompted that? You know, how did you first get into that space? And then we're obviously going to get into the bringing up of getting into a cult and so forth and so forth. But right. Entertainment space, first question, how'd you get into that?
Wow, that has been 20 plus years in the making. 20 plus years. But I honestly started in theater. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Ohio originally. Ohio is where I was born. Chicago is where I got grown. Wow. Chicago is my heart. And that's where I started working as an actor, doing theater. I went to Loyola University, Chicago, studying theater there, went to Steppenwolf's School of Steppenwolf, which is a prestigious theater school there. And then jumped over the pond, went to England for a while, did some theater, came back to Chicago. And that was just my heart. So when you say like, how did I get into it? Honestly, I think it's twofold. I think just doing theater in Ohio as a kid, because I was like a little dork and I just enjoyed reading. And I wanted to play out on stage. That started that. And something that someone else actually brought up in the interview, they asked if whether or not my religious upbringing influenced me being in the entertainment industry. And I was like, oh, that's something fun to bring to therapy. We'll figure it out.
Unpack it.
So that's how I started. And then I got to LA. 8 years ago, I think today, actually.
Oh, congrats. Okay. Done the anniversary.
Hi.
Cue the 2020 Tony.
Exactly. So been out here for 8 years, and it's honestly been a dream. It's been amazing. I've been able to not only do TV and film, but a little theater, some voiceover, video games. I have a new show coming out on Amazon, probably late this year or early next year, which I'm excited about. And then I launched Black and Cultivated, that kind of was born out of all of these projects.
Wow. Well, I mean, a perfect segue. And again, you can tell that you do this. So take us back to the moment where you knew the show itself had to exist. Because I've listened to the trailer, listened to a few episodes as well, too. Extremely well done. But like even your publicist when reached out, and I was like, yeah, that's some white people stuff. Like, I just, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be any type of way about it, but that's just kind of like how I think in this culture that that's how we think. And clearly that's not true, right? So the moment when you realize, you know what, I have a story to tell, like Biggie, and this is a story that I do want to tell.
Absolutely. And yes, thank you for being honest about that, because I love when people are like, hey, I did think it was some white people shit. Yeah. Like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So yes, Black and Cultivated was born out of a few things, my own experience foremost. But I was born in a doomsday apocalyptic church called Worldwide Church of God. It is now defunct. It has now spawned off into several different types of churches now, but its main entity, Worldwide Church of God, is now defunct. And within that, of course, you're in it, so you don't really think about what you're going through. It's not until you get outside of it that you can see. Fast forward pandemic, actually before then, my dad and I had a conversation because he's the one that introduced the church to us. I was born in it, but brought it to the family. I asked him, I said, why did you put us in this weird church? Because at that time I had been Googling some things and saw a few things about cults pop up when I searched the name of our church. And he explained, he's like, I did the best that I could. I thought it was right. I didn't know, because no one wakes up and says, I'm going to join a cult today.
Right.
No one has that attitude. So you get in something and then you realize over time how destructive and detrimental and maybe dangerous it could be. So after that, I put it on the back burner. Pandemic, I started doing more writing. I'm a screenwriter as well. So I wrote a pilot about a little 13-year-old girl who discovers that something's fishy at her church. And from that, I started to talk to Black former members of my church. I started to have a conversation with them and then ask, like, hey, have you heard this being called a cult? And some people are like, yes, how come we're not talking about this? It's so secret. It's
Wow.
like, something we don't talk about. And just constantly hearing these stories from people of all ages, I was like, oh, we got to talk to folks. These stories have to be out there. But I wanted to broaden it out. So I put a call out. I said, let me just try. My boyfriend made me a logo. I was like, well, if it's a logo, then that means I got to do it. And I put a call out saying, hey, I'm looking to interview former cult members that are Black and brown. Because yes, we watch a lot of cult documentaries. We listen to a lot of cult podcasts. Rarely are we getting the perspective of Black and brown folks. And if we do, it just be like one little chocolate chip in the bowl. So I was like, our stories have a valid place as well. On top of that, Black folks do sometimes have the attitude that it is some white people shit. Black people don't do this. And in reality, that is not true at all. So after putting the call out, I had quite a few people reach out and say, oh my gosh, I am so glad somebody else Black is saying this. And I want to talk to you because you have also been in a cult. Not all cults are the same, but you have also been in something, so we might have more of a common language. It's not sensationalized. We can have a good kiki about it because we've been through it. And that's how really it was. That was a long-winded answer, but that is how that's how Black and CULTivated was born.
Yeah, I mean, I asked the question because I wanted to know, and I think our fans and listeners want to know as well. So there is a little bit to unpack there, and that. So I think I'm even trying to get lost in my own sauce because I'm not trying to go off the script. Like I want to really like kind of feed into what you're saying. So there's two things I want to make sure that I ask here, right? So one, the call out. What does that look like, LaNisa? Because like, is it like you put it out on Craigslist? Like what is a call out for Black people in the call? What does that really even look like?
That's so funny. No one's actually asked that. Like, how the heck did you do that? Several social media was great. I have a decent size, following on social media that I was able to put a call out. On top of that, Reddit is my friend, and I put a call out on Reddit. And I'm actually in a Facebook group that is cult survivors of my specific cult. And my cult was a lot of white folk. So I was a little nervous and I was a little skeptical that I would find any Black members that would be willing to talk. And lo and behold, I found a few Black members specifically from my church, from my organization, not my congregation, that were open to talking. So, and then just honestly, word of mouth. I feel like one of the most random, honestly, ways that I found folks was because I listened to a lot of podcasts. I would listen and be like, they Black. Let me hit them up. So I listened to cult podcasts like Was I in a Cult? That was a big one that I listened to. And I found Rachel Rain, who is a British cult survivor who speaks out against cults. My boyfriend is obsessed with Survivor. And one day he said, hey, there's a cult survivor that's Black on Survivor and you need to talk to them. So I DM'd them and was like, hey girl, hey, I was in a cult too. Will you talk to me? And she was like, what? And eventually said yes. So honestly, I think being in entertainment, I know how to hustle and know how to
Nice.
get a gig and get a person. And that's how it happened.
Yeah. There's so many layers to this conversation, even for me as somebody who is not initiated in that space, right? And so I guess I should have Googled this before, but the definition of a cult, right? Because I think some people or most people think that it's strictly or specifically religious. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. Not all cults are religious in base or in origin, but yours
Absolutely.
was, right? The Worldwide Church of God, so to speak. But
Mhm.
you're open to all cult, air quote, survivors or people who, in essence, have gotten out, correct?
Correct. Correct. Everybody is out. And that's a great question about the definition of such. There are such broad definitions, and as you said, they do not all have to be religious. There are influencer cults, there
Mm,
are holistic cults, there are wellness cults. Mine specifically was religious, and I do like to clarify how I came to the definition of cult
okay.
for today. Whatever today is. Today, this is my definition of a cult. It has several factors, including a charismatic leader who is
Mm,
usually the ultimate authority on all things, and members might follow unquestionably. Number two, a place where there is almost perfect uniformity in terms of groupthink. And if they
mm,
do go outside that norm, they might be discouraged to, and they could be punished, whether or not that's an excommunication, a physical punishment, an isolation, exiled. Some cults live together, ours did not, but cults are often encouraged to spend a lot of time together
yeah.
doing related activities together. There's often, number four, an elitist or like a superior attitude saying that we are the chosen church. We're right, everyone else is wrong. We're the true church.
Right.
And finally, a wacky or a wild beliefs that often make you just clutch your pearls. So usually things that fall outside the normal quote unquote acceptable societal things that are considered okay within society. So a lot of people are like, well, some people are atheists, that could be God. It's like, but in general, most people say that a belief in God is not wacky. So I'm talking about things that are beyond that,
That makes sense.
like the doomsday apocalyptic beliefs that my church upheld, as well as an idea of British Israelism, which is another theory and doctrine that my church upheld. So yes, that's how I define cult.
And well defined, I think, at that. Last one before we go to break here, LaNisa. So how'd you get out? I guess, from your specific one, because I think same thing, as they are based in different ideologies, so to speak, and the
Mhm.
parameters can often change. Uh, I think, we familiar with gangs and always you got to jump somebody out. Like that's not what it is. But
Right.
how did you specifically get out of your cult?
So, as I said a little bit earlier, our church became defunct. So, what happened
Mm,
is our leader died, and we see this a lot in cults. The leader dies, and then there's chaos, and that's what happened. So, there was chaos for about, I don't know, 10-ish years after his death, until finally, the best word I can think of is like an implosion. And it started, some of the church went one way and started believing more evangelical, quote unquote, normal beliefs, and others, the other side, stayed with our the thoughts of the doctrine of the leader. So in my case, I don't think there was like a big escape. I did not have like, and then I ran out and I escaped. I didn't have that because our church essentially imploded. And by that time,
mm,
I was about to attend college. And so there was nothing really for me to want to go back to. I didn't choose to go to any of the offshoots. So that's how I, quote unquote, got out, which looks like, so it looks different for so many
yeah.
people, but that's mine.
Well, hey, and it is yours, right? And it's going to be subjective in that way. We're chatting with the amazing LaNisa Frederick here, host of Black and Cultivated. Make sure you follow her new podcast at Black and Cultivated on IG. You can follow her specifically at LaNisa Frederick. Let's take a quick break here on Dope Interviews, y'all, and we'll be right back. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed when you use the promo code CLNS. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts and is available in more than 30 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, and my home state of Florida. Due to the enormous selection of players and stat types available, you can mix and match your playing strategies based on your personal preferences. I'm a Celtics guy, so I might take Tatum for more than 27 points, and maybe I'll rock with Porzingis for more than 2 blocks. And for those who love a quick win, PrizePicks is the way to go. You can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use the code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Remember, with PrizePicks, it's as simple as picking more or picking less. Again, that's promo code CLNS to get $50 after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And we're back here on Dope Interviews with my new friend, LaNisa. LaNisa has been talking to us a little bit about the cult life, so to speak, and the impetus of the Black and Cultivated podcast. And so something that I want to dive into here with you now, LaNisa, is the aspect of blending comedy in this podcast, right? So I have not listened to previous cult podcasts, as you did. I think, trying to figure out how you were going to find guests and then kind of cultivate, air quote, your own space. But you do have, that those comedic chops, if you will. What was the decision process to blend comedy into what could be a very traumatic experience for a lot of people?
I feel like as an artist, I bring comedy to the table in so many things that I do. And I knew that if I was going to do this, I was not going to enjoy a process in which it was all so heavy and traumatic. The things that many of the people that I interviewed went through are obviously traumatic, and we don't take that lightly. I think what makes us different is that because I was in a cult as well, there's common terminology, there are common semantics that we understand that we can laugh at, like the ridiculousness of how a leader behaves. Some of the wacky rules that we said, hey, that's weird. We can laugh about that. And because we were on the inside, there is a levity to it. I also think there's a dark humor to it. Talking to a Scientologist survivor, we cracked up because I said, hey, they didn't feed you snacks. Why did you stay so long? They should have fed you snacks. And Scientology could probably have more members if they just fed y'all. And she said, yeah, you're right. I should probably have Scientology messed up.
That was episode 1, right?
That was episode 1. And that just cracked us up so much because we know how absurd it is. So there is an absurdity with so much of it. Obviously, again, the things that are traumatic, the things that are devastating, there's nothing that we take lightly in that. And our goal is to help not only ourselves, but to help whoever is listening to our platform. But we can't lie. There's some funny stuff in there because it's ridiculous.
No. It's one of, I mean, I think it's sometimes the laugh to keep from crying, or maybe you've already cried, right? And now you have the opportunity, in essence, to heal from that. I guess the next question I have for you, though, is they know you, but do they know that's going to be the tone and tenor of there? Have you been surprised yet? Have some people expected, like, oh, I thought this was going to be, a little bit more, A to B, as opposed to, hey, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this?
No, everyone. I worked with an amazing producer, Yinka, who I explained her my tone and the way that I wanted to go about this podcast. Plus, honestly, you look me up and it's just sketches and funny stuff anyway. So if you didn't look that up, then that's on you. Right, you didn't do your homework. But no, I definitely, number one, wanted people that had already quote unquote healed. I don't think healing has an end time, but had already gotten to a place of healing where they felt comfortable enough to have some levity with what we were saying. So that was number one. And then number two, when I talked to folks, I said, this is going to be a comedy podcast. So while your story is not ha, ha, ha funny, the situation's going to be absurd. We're going to play some games at the end. We're going to make it looser. Because honestly, I was bored listening to podcasts that were just like down and dreary and just felt like they were, poking the bear, so to speak, with survivors.
No, I mean, that makes so much sense. So how do you utilize, I think you've done theater and obviously an actress, do you kind of go air quote off script, in the shows, or is it something where they kind of understand the cadence, like they have maybe an outline of the questions, but how often does your conversation maybe go wherever it actually needs to go based on, and then you utilize, your talents basically as somebody in theater and comedy to kind of curtail that conversation?
Yeah, I've been very lucky that everyone that I've spoken to has been okay with like, look, we gotta outline, but we might go crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
And in that case, everyone is game. I do believe in it's not a live podcast. I do want to edit to make sure that the people that I interview feel safe because I always say this is a safe space. So if they say anything wild and they're like, yo, LaNisa, delete that. I'm like, I got you.
yeah.
We're gonna delete that. We're creating safe spaces. I am not TMZ. I'm not trying to do a gotcha. But that said, we have fun, and if it goes in a different direction, then so be it. Sometimes in the editing process, realize that the direction went too far off, and I'm like, let's use that as a bonus because that was that went way far off. But for the most part, everybody has been very game in terms of like keeping it loose, keeping it open, and seeing where the conversation flows.
Yeah, I mean that's the way I think all good storytelling really should be. And one of the things that I've come across, I think in one or maybe even two of the episodes, is that well, again, one, not all cults are the same, and then sometimes you may be in more than one cult. So I think
Yeah,
so this is not a blame the victim type of situation, right? I
right.
just think, but I think I'm fascinated about it's like, oh, you got out of one, but then sometimes it's, I guess, and I'm not a psychologist or any type of way, but maybe it's kind of a learned behavior, and sometimes it's the comfort maybe that's involved that just in kind of that group think that you were talking about a little bit earlier. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? Like, I don't know if you know statistics off the top of your head, but how many people maybe are in one, two, three, or multiple cults in their lifetime?
I do not know statistics, but I have had the honor of talking with cult experts. One specifically, whose episode just released a few days ago, Nikki G. She is a
Well,
five-time cult survivor, and I was like, sis, wait, what we doing?
right.
Why? And she introduced a term to me called cult hopping, and I was
Mm,
like, what's that? So she said cult hopping is essentially like you get in that safe space of needing to have a community that has the same characteristics as the last one. And she explained it. She's like, just think about a relationship where you jump into the next
yeah.
relationship and you realize that's the same fool that you dated before. They just in a different body. Same thing. And I was like,
Mm,
oh, that makes sense. So for her, after doing a few episodes of hopping, realized like, wait, it's me in the sense that I do go to these groups that I feel this way. It's
yeah.
not my fault, obviously, as a victim that people are taking advantage of me, et cetera, et cetera. But I need to recognize and take accountability for some of the behaviors that I have contributed to when seeking out for her a spiritual place, called hopping. So for her, that really got her into then understanding the background behind it and becoming a coach. So she's now a religious trauma coach, and has been for quite a few years based on her experiences because she was honestly fascinated with herself in how am I going from cult to cult to cult. So yes, it is quite prevalent, honestly. And I think we see it a lot in Black community too, which we don't talk about.
Yeah.
um, yes, it is prevalent.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the next thing sometimes that I think is becoming a little bit more normal in the Black community, but the aspect of therapy. So,
Hmm.
of the guests that you've interviewed so far, how many of them do you feel, or do you know, if you will, have gone to therapy or maybe try to reconcile being out of the cult kind of on their own?
I think I'm gonna say 95%.
Wow.
99. This is a made up LaNisa statistic, but
But not holding you to it, but I got you.
they're gonna be like, you quoted her on that. But no, I would say about 95% of the guests that I have gone to some sort of therapy or counseling, including myself. Therapy is cool,
Yeah.
in which you break down and figure out that journey in order to heal. And I think that that's huge in Black and Brown communities. I interview a Filipino woman who also talks about, oh, that's not cool in our community as well, going to therapy. So for her to do that and for her to take advantage of that, I think it's a testament for all of us how we are growing in a positive direction and being able to speak out about stuff. You know, Black folks, we want to keep it on the DL. We're like, don't let nobody know your business. But we got to let somebody know our business because this ain't cute no more.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. What's been the reception from those? And so obviously the guests are happy, and you know, it can be even another form of therapy for them talking with you and somebody who's had similar experiences. But what has been the guest reaction, your reviews, and you know, people who you know, your family, your friends, but again, more importantly, not more importantly, but just as importantly, maybe who don't know, like who said, you know what, LaNisa, Black and Cultivated is X.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the guests, my number one commitment is to them. And if they
Mm,
happy, I is happy. And so far everyone's been
love that.
happy. I had a guest that said just exactly what you said. This has been another form of therapy and I needed to get it out. And this was a male, and that made me very happy as a Black man that he could
Right.
say, I got this out. Because again, he's one of the people that he was in my organization, but not, I didn't know him. He was in a different congregation. So for him to say, I needed this, I'm glad I got that out. I was like, boom, you about to help somebody. That's going to help. That's going to be so helpful. So all the guests have been there in that light. I think one of the most, not that I didn't expect it, I guess I didn't expect it, was that I get DMs from people all the time now that are like, yo, thank you for this. I was in a cult. I'm Black. I didn't know I could talk about it.
Mm.
I don't talk about it with anybody. And I'm glad that you brought this up in this way. I needed to see this. Because, yeah, like we said, we watch a Nexium doc, we watch, you know, all these documentaries, and it's still a white perspective. Even when you think about a cult, and I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit of tangent. When I
No,
think
no,
about a cult like Jonestown, in which you had 918 people that die, 70% of those folks were Black folks. Usually, the conversation is still around the white people surrounding it. It's still around Jim Jones, and I was
yeah.
like, what about that 70% of Black folks that were in it? What's their story? So for people to DM me and secretly be like, yo, thank you, or email me, hey, can I be on your next episode? Can I be on your next one? That has definitely shown me like, oh, this is needed. We do need this. And I want to keep doing that in that capacity. Family, super supportive. I'm so very grateful. I'm not gonna lie, I'm sure that made a difference in the ease of it because I do have a super supportive family in sharing this and being able, I think it's also too brought another level of the relationship I have with my mother, being able to have these honest and
Mm.
open conversations now, and vent and share and hear things that she never told me. It's really opened our relationship up in a new way. Now, I will say there are some former church members that are maybe not so happy.
They gonna have
They'll
to sit on the sideline, LaNisa. They'll be all right.
That's what I say. I'm like, y'all be all right. Y'all be all right.
Yeah.
I hope that they listen with open hearts and minds and know that nothing is out of malice and know that it is all out of love and a need to share. And there's no point of like hiding shit no more. Might as well
Mm.
let that shit get out.
Big facts.
But yeah, all in all, I'm proud of the reception, and I hope it gets out there for more folks, for them to listen.
What I heard in that is a lot of you're doing it for the right reasons, to be very honest. Like some people pick up this podcast mic and it's like they're looking for clicks or looking for downloads or looking for something that's kind of inauthentic to the reason and the purpose and the mission of the show.
Right.
You are not that. Right. And I, you know, I
Yeah.
love hearing that it's about the guests. If the guests are happy, they feel like, hey, like to coin my moniker, it was a dope interview and it was a therapeutic situation. That is the right reason to keep doing what you're doing. I think that's effing beautiful, LaNisa. That's so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm proud of
Absolutely.
it. I'm really proud of it. You know, I'll say in the beginning too, after I wrote my screenplay about it, I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. I'm an artist. So my brain is already like it multitasks in different ways. But having sat in this process of editing and developing and interviewing for for over a year plus now,
Mm.
I feel like I find new purpose with it every time I download the new or upload the new episode or I share a sketch about something. So it's constantly involving and I'm proud of that.
Let's take another quick break here. We'll do some rapid fire questions here with LaNisa on the other side here and dope interviews. We'll be right back. And we're back here on Dope Interviews. So, LaNisa, on the front side of this break, we're talking a little bit about the Black and Brown experience, the therapeutic aspect of it as well too. So, I'm going to ask you, not necessarily a tough question, but maybe a little bit of a sensitive one, maybe a little bit, right? So, you and I are both Black, right? We do our show, and I would say honestly, the majority of my guests, but not all, but the majority of my guests are of Black and Brown persuasion, if you will. What is the reception, if you will, from those who are non-Black? And I think even for you, guests who maybe are non-Black and say, well, I want to be on Black and Cultivated. Would you speak to white cult leaders, to be on that experience? Like, kind of like, what's the breadth of guest and what's the reception from people who are not Black?
White folks be loving it. Let me say non-Black folks. Non-Black folks be loving it. Because we are diverse, but it is about Black and Brown people. So I will say, I'll give an example. Again, I am part of a random Facebook group that is about cult survivors from my specific cult. And I posted it, and I honestly was a little nervous because our church was built on a theory called British Israelism, which is basically racist. And it says that folks from the UK are part of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Therefore, they're better than blah, 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 blah. So based in that racist history, I was a little nervous posting about a Black experience on this group. And immediately folks were like, oh my God, thank you for talking about the race part within our church. Our church was very anti-interracial dating. There were sermons on it. There were, that was the next big sin to destroy our country, was interracial dating. You're not allowed to, if you wanted to get married, you have to go to headquarters to ask for permission, blah, 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 blah. Real fun stuff. So I was nervous to hear their reception. And I'm very grateful to say that, like, so many people DM me and they're like, my parents were racist as hell. And that's why we were in this church. So thank you for speaking out against that. Part two, are white folks invited on the podcast? Not yet. Give us a no.
I'm mad at it.
No. Now, maybe season 2 or 3, we might have some conversations, but it was very important to me to uplift and to promote Black and Brown voices in this space, in this capacity, without having a white narrative around it. Will that happen in the future? Sure. If Wondery or Audible want to come through and, hook a sis up.
I feel that.
Look, if Earwolf want to give us a contract, Pineapple Media, I'm going to call them all out. Then we can.
I'm putting in SEO. Don't worry about it. I got you.
Then we can chit chat. But right now, I do want it as a space for Black and Brown survivors to feel safe. And for Black and Brown folks that are watching to be like, cool, I understand this other common language we have around Black folks and religion as well. So,
yeah, that's authentic and real right there. As of yet, have you had a Black cult leader on, or has it been primarily people who were in the cult, but not as a leadership?
Everybody has been in the cult. I've had people that were like, I was the dance captain, but no one that's been a leader. So that's a goal, but I want them at this point out. I don't know if I'm interested in interviewing someone that's like still in it. I'm like, I might want to fight you, but so I would love that. I would definitely love that if they are out and they are reflecting on their time and see how they got into it. So yeah.
With you mentioned the aspect of seasons. So what is the plan there? Is it going to be like 10 episodes per season, then take a break? Like, kind of like, what's the cadence that you're looking to do with Black and Cultivated?
Right. So we've dropped, I think 6 episodes by now. And we have a few more. On the ones that are left are about actually my specific church, White Church of God. So we're going to roll those out. I'm going to take a quick break in between before I drop those episodes. And then I would love a season 2. I'm not sure exactly if I want to continue with the same format. I feel like yes, just because I've gotten so many people that have asked to be on the podcast and talk about their experience. And I feel like I would love another season that explores that. And now that I've gotten some kinks out and have learned a lot, because this is a journey. I think I think that could happen. Definitely will be taking a break in between to regroup, figure out some stuff. But I do want to have future seasons. And look, if it's supposed to live on in just this capacity right now, then so be it. We're doing
Yeah.
some good work.
Last two before we let you get out of here, just the aspect of, you mentioned learning. And I think when you and most people, when they take on any new endeavor, something that they haven't really done before, there's going to be that learning curve. But then
Mhm.
when you're doing it in this way where it's educational, therapeutic, and comedic, there's just so many layers that you're trying to unpack and mix into that. What has been the biggest lesson that either you learned about yourself through creating the podcast, or maybe even learned about cults in general by interviewing other guests?
I'll take both. About myself is, oh my God, I talk a lot. I I was like, if I don't shut up. I was editing an episode last night, yelling at myself, and because I love a conversation, so I want to. I'm in there. I get juicy. I'm like, yeah, let's talk. But I listened back and was like, oh my God, she doesn't shut up. So learning to listen more, not capacity. And okay, wait, what was your second question?
And yeah, and what you've learned about cults in general in this space.
Oh, well, I think that they're so diverse in
Mm.
what they are. Obviously, I knew the Black folks could be in cults, but just understanding the breadth of cults that there are, and how they affect us in different ways, because of our connection to Black folks and religion, has been very fascinating.
The strangest one that you've learned about in doing the research, or maybe from a guest perspective that you're about, like, I didn't know there was a cult about X.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I will go back to my episode 1 where my guest Yvette is a former member of Scientology and One Taste. And One Taste was a sex cult. And I was like, Black folks are
Orgasm
in
one. Yes.
what? And it's an orgasm cult. And I
Yeah.
loved her explanation. I was like, yes, pleasure. Yes, feel good. But I was like, wait, Black folks are in that way? So that one was the most, I was like, how am I in a cult and still shocked by you?
Yeah.
Uh, that was the most eye-opening one for me.
I feel it. Yeah, I think it caught me off guard too. I mean, I was like, oh wow.
Right.
So, and I felt like I felt not dirty, but I was like, I didn't want anyone else to listen to it.
Right.
What's happening right now? But it was a
Not
vibe. It was a vibe. I think Yvette was an amazing guest. Yeah, I know she was an amazing guest, and you did a great job, I think, in that episode. You mentioned this already, but as we get out of here, yes, we want people to heal, but is there anything else that you want? Is there a message that you want people to learn, gain, understand from the Black and Cultivated podcast?
Again, the healing part, but no one, again, I repeat this ad nauseum, that no one wakes up and says that they're going to join a cult. So this idea that people are dumb or foolish is absurd. And if we take away that shame, then we'll have a better chance of healing and getting more right with ourselves. So just people understanding that it's not something that you wake up one day and go out to pursue.
Yeah. Well, that will conclude our interview here on Dope Interviews here with the amazing LaNisa Frederick. You are doing such amazing work. I feel more learned, if you will, from our conversation. And I will continue to listen in on the podcast because I think it's such an amazing story, such a different story that does need to be told. So thank you for bringing the awareness to this topic and sharing your stories here on Dope Interviews, LaNisa.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, there'll be hopefully more conversations to come. I'm going to follow all the handles, and even outside of the cult stuff. I think you're an amazing follow on Instagram too. I've been watching as well too. Again, she is LaNisa Frederick. Make sure you follow her at Black and Cultivated or at LaNisa Frederick on Instagram. I am Warren Shaw. You can follow me at dope_scores on X now. Yeah, that's the one. You can follow me at the Warren Shaw on all their social platforms. You know what it is, man. It's been another Dope Interviews with my homegirl, LaNisa Frederick, y'all. We're out.
Deuces.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together with a shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on the quiz. Mojo Flow and Viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation. Understand me?